Well, all right, then let's dive right into it, man. OU's defense, Texas Tech's offense. When those groups are on the field, Ted, what are you watching for?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just um, a symptom of having to play so many different quarterbacks at different times throughout the year, but it feels like this is mainly a running football team for the most part. They definitely can get things done through the air, for sure. But man, they've built some really interesting things in the running game, and that's really what has me concerned. Now they've got size at wide receiver, which always worries you a little bit. But man, I feel like we've done a pretty good job recently covering some guys. The running game worries me a little bit because they do a bunch of different stuff. It's kind of surprising. The background for the offensive coordinator was throwing the ball all over the yard, and now they're running it and doing it effectively. Just looking at some of the concepts that you'll get from them. Obviously, we get split zone with a tight end in the backfield, but they'll also do some of what we've seen with Braden Willis. Insert instead of blocking the in man on the line of scrimmage. They'll run one back power, and it looks like one back power at times. Other times it looks kind of like a fold draw. Probably two different plays, and it probably depends on what the front is. I'll tell you what's interesting. They'll do some zone read stuff, even with Tyler Shough. He's 6'5", 230 pounds, but he runs better than I expected. And he's run the ball
way
quite
better than I expected.
Yeah. Especially for a guy with two collarbone breaks, right?
And I interviewed him on my SiriusXM show this week, and he said shoulders 100%, feels great about it. So I think he's kind of worked through that mentally, and he's in a good place. And he's basically been a running quarterback the last 2 weeks. It's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And, they'll do some zone read stuff with him, and they'll mess with you a little bit because every now and then they'll base block the defensive end. Typically on zone read, you block, down and away, and you kind of read that defensive end. If he's up the field, the quarterback will probably maybe try and keep it and go outside. If he's nice and flat and square, then, you'll probably hand it. And now they'll block the tackle down, and then he'll stop and hinge and turn out for base block on that defensive end. And it stresses those backers there. You got to read that block and know how to fit it up front, which is a little bit unique. They'll do some counter stuff with the tight end. They'll do like some formation stuff, some end over and run counter out of it. And they'll do it with I'm trying to remember who we saw do this earlier in the year. It was it was the first time I'd ever seen it, but they'll run counter, guard first, tight end second, but the tight end starts in a normal end line position. So that's a little bit unique. So, who was it that did that?
TCU.
So, that's an interesting look. And, I saw something that was pretty cool. They have both backs in the backfield, run split backs to both Taj Brooks and SaRodorick Thompson back there, and they'll run power out of it away from the tight end. So you've got a lead blocker, guard pulling, traditional power, and then, I call it load, I guess, whenever you've got the tight end coming as the last guy. So you get a lot of blockers out there in front trying to create a bunch of different gaps. So, they're going to do some things between gap with pullers and just some zone stuff. They're going to give you a lot of different looks and, present a bunch of different surfaces to try and get you out gapped and, mess with the linebacker's eyes and some of your reads. So thought that was pretty interesting. And I wanted to get your take on it because the offensive line, to me, they're big, but they look like they're going to really struggle with movement. And
they have.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a particularly athletic group. and especially the right side, got some youth on that right side, guys that haven't played a ton of football. And yeah, it's not a come off the ball and maul you group either. Remember, they were doing in the past, they were doing a bunch of that RPO stuff. They were like the ultimate cover you up offensive line, really didn't get downfield because of all the RPO stuff. So they need some time to build that group up front. Maybe they'll get some guys in the portal. But yeah, I don't think it's one of the better offensive lines in the conference or anything. I do think Brooks and Thompson are elusive and have power. Like I like both of their backs, man.
Yeah,
I really
no,
do.
I think both backs are good. They've got some good movement to them, good in the open field, and it's a good 1-2 combo. You're always facing a fresh back. That's really solid. But with the offensive line, I honestly feel like it's a big edge. As many tackles for loss as we create, and as bad as they are with movement and their footwork is just real cumbersome, I feel like our defensive line may have they'll have the opportunity, I think, to have a really big game, tackles for loss, putting pressure on the quarterback.
It could look similar to what Oklahoma State looked like. I think those two offensive lines are pretty comparable. And but I think Texas Tech has better backs than Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and you add the rushing element, this newfound running game of Tyler Shough, which where the hell did this come from? But
wild.
So that's a new little wrinkle that Brent Venables and that staff are going to have to plan for. But overall, the offense is it's not you don't turn on the tape and go, wow, look at this group.
Middle of the road. Like you look at the statistics, they're kind of a middle of the road offense in the Big 12. And whenever you turn on the film, you say, yeah, that's kind of what I see. They're not going to blow you away anywhere. You do worry about the size at wide receiver, and Shough's got a big arm and he's a big dude that's going to rip it out there. But, I yet again, here I am saying it, third week in a row, I feel like our defense can have a really nice day against Texas Tech's offense.
I'm with you. And you mentioned the size at wide receiver. It's interesting. You and I have talked about this before. They've pretty much got a basketball team at wide receiver. Different sizes, different skill sets, different body types. I mean, you got Miles Price, who's the smaller, like gadget guy. You got Xavier White. Remember, he used to be a running back. For him. They moved him to wide receiver, and he actually looks pretty dang good. He's number 14. And then they got
a lot like TCU, man.
Yeah, and then they got two trees, right? Jaron Bradley, 6'5", and then I think Cleveland, number 10. I think he's 6'4"-ish. So it's like they got these shiftier, quick guys in the inside, and then these massive dudes on the outside. So yeah, it's an interesting offense to watch. And it's, as the season progressed, it's just not what I expected from Zach Kitley after seeing what he did at Western Kentucky with Bailey Zappi last year. It's just, and maybe he didn't have the quarterback. Maybe that's what it was going to look like before Shough got hurt, the first game of the season. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think it's come together the way they thought it was going to come together.
No, and, you expect that to a certain degree. Any good offensive coordinator is going to use their assets to the best of their ability, and mold their offense to fit the personnel.
I'm with you. All right. You got anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Let's talk some OU offense and the Texas Tech defense. Boy, Tim DeRuyter's dialing it up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff coming from everywhere. Now, before we dive into some of the X's and O's of what they're doing, I feel absolutely robbed that Tyree Wilson isn't playing in this game. Ted, I went back and looked on my radio show. We made lists of like things we were excited about heading into the season. And one of my top 5 things I was excited about was Anton Harrison versus Tyree Wilson.
Yep.
And we're not getting it because he broke his foot. He's a projected first rounder in the NFL draft. I've been waiting all year for this matchup between him and Anton. And now the week is here and we're not getting it. And I'm sad. I'm real sad. I just wanted to watch those two guys who I think have, who are probably second round picks at the very worst. I'm sad I don't get to watch those guys go at it.
Yeah. Well, Tyree Wilson is maybe the ultimate get off the bus first guy, right?
Dude, let me tell you, when we were at Big 12 Media Day and we go and we get to interview every coach and every player there. That dude walked over and I said, holy shit, look at this guy. I told him to his face, I said, bro, you look like the Under Armour mannequin.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, he is by far, it's not even close, the best looking prospect in the Big 12 conference. Like,
oh yeah,
he looks like a cyborg.
Yep.
Him being out is good for Oklahoma's offense, though. As sad as I am about not getting to watch that matchup, I realize that him not being out there on the field is advantageous for the Sooners offense. And so let's start here, because I do think when you watch their defense, the defensive line is a physical group, right? And they've got some interesting body types, like shorter, stockier, kind of the physical guys in the interior, with Jalen Hutchings, 95, who's played a lot of ball for them. And then Tony Bradford Jr., 97, who's played a lot of ball for them. Like, they're 6 foot, kind of squattier, and
if I
play with
remember,
great
Hutchings,
pad level.
He ate our lunch last year, didn't he?
And I'm here to tell you it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
Because Andrew Rame, by now people will know he had shoulder surgery. He'll be out for the rest of the season. So it's going to be Robert Conjal. This is not a good matchup for Conjal, because guys that play low and with good pad level tend to get underneath him. So he's going to have to fix that, man. He's going to have to say, I got to bend, I got to battle. But yeah, Hutchings, Bradford, man, they're experienced players that have played a ton of snaps in the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah.
Right. And, they're going to try to disrupt everything there in the middle of that offensive line. And the thing about it for Tech's defense is, I mean, you go through a game and you feel like you've seen, it's like almost like watching OU. You feel like you've seen 3 or 4 different styles of defense from them, because they'll keep the same personnel on the field. They basically play with kind of old school 3-4 personnel.
Mm-hmm.
They got 2 outside linebacker, kind of like hybrid body type guys. And then they got 3 defensive linemen on the field, 2 inside backers. It's interesting, but they'll bounce from like a 3-3-5 look to a traditional like 3-4 look. And then they'll be in a 4 down, like a 4-2 structure. And you're just like, okay, like you just play everything. Okay.
Yep.
So with everything that they do from, just getting lined up, it'll be on Robert Conjal. What front are they in? How many down linemen? Where are you going? And that's run scheme. That's pass protection. You have to identify what the structure is, because each structure comes with different rules. So there's a lot going on, and that has to be communicated across the board. That's backs, tight ends, clearly all the offensive linemen. Quarterback needs to know where the O-line's working in pass protection. So there's a lot going on, man. And we'll start with that. We'll get your thoughts on that before we get into some of their blitz packages, because whoa.
Yeah. Well, it makes me wonder, like, and I know it always is, but like, just to keep them from maybe changing the look on you that much, probably be a big tempo game, right? And I know after last week, people may not want to hear that, but
oh boy, boy,
I feel like that's probably, if a team's going to make that many adjustments and play that many different fronts and looks against you, then a lot of times you just you try and dictate by using some tempo instead of allowing them to force you into the thinking mode.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. I'm thinking with as much tempo as OU's offense plays with, like they'll have to pick a structure too and just kind of live in it.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Third down. At this point, it is well documented that the Sooners have struggled on third down the last 2 weeks. What is it? 2 of 27? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's 2 of 30 on third and fourth down.
That's not good. That's bad. That's real bad.
Yep.
You do not want to end up in 3rd and 7+ against this team. The best thing I could compare it to is watching some of their blitz stuff reminds me of going against Brent Venables' defense in practice.
Yeah.
Like it's coming, blitzes with twists added onto it. I mean, it's coming from the edge, from the interior. He's bringing safeties. He's bringing corners. If you're in 3rd and 7+, it's coming from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff they can get into like a 5-down structure, right? To where all the offensive linemen are covered. They kind of know that, hey, the offensive line will just take those 5, right? And then they'll bring 6-man pressure, 7-man pressure, and sometimes just make the quarterback beat him with the ball. Or this is a team that absolutely tests your running back's ability to pass protect. Mm-hmm. And they mainly do it with Krishan Merriweather, their Mike linebacker, who is a big fan of physical contact. I mean, number one, he's once again played a lot of football for him, but they are going to find ways to blitz and twist and force your running backs to pass protect. And while I think we've seen some improvement in that aspect of things from Eric Gray, Javonte Barnes, if he's going to play significant snaps in this game, you better buckle up, young man, because they're going to see if you can do it.
Yeah.
It's coming.
I feel like Marcus Major's kind of been our best at that, hasn't he?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But they do some elaborate stuff. And it's actually really fun to watch on tape. Yeah. You're just like, because I'm sitting there going, oh, I can see it. I see the safety rotation. You're not tricking me. And then I remember I'm watching it on an iPad and not like down in a stance. I'm like, yeah, that may be a little harder to see than you think, buddy. Yeah. But I like their defense. The one thing I really like about it, and obviously Tyree Wilson not being out there is a big blow for them. They are so old on defense.
Yeah.
Every single one of their DBs, man, is senior transfer, red shirt. Like they have to have the oldest secondary in all of college football.
Experience matters, man.
They are an experienced, physically mature defense. I mean, they're playing without Wilson. They'll have to play a couple young guys probably at that edge position. 43 is a freshman, and he's probably going to be a good player. He's not there yet. I think he's a guy you can attack right now, but all the other guys are like redshirt juniors, seniors, or redshirt seniors. And when you look at their secondary, Oklahoma's wide receivers, it feels like they've had some trouble getting some separation lately, right? Mm-hmm. This group is going to grab the absolute hell out of you. And they are going to force the referees to call it. And they're not going to call it every time. Obviously, you have to play. A lot of time we talk about, playing wide receiver with physicality. It's not only just about blocking or finishing physically once you have the ball in your hands or stuff. No, it's like they're going to have to be extremely physical in their route running, like the hand fighting, all that. Like they're going to have to turn that up because this is a group that, they just dare the officials to call it. It's really how they go about it. Yep. And I kind of respect it.
Well, That's how you need to do it until you start. I mean, you got to find how each group of officials is going to call the game, and then you play to that. You know, sometimes they'll let you get away with a lot of stuff. You need to be able to adjust to that. Sometimes you're not going to be able to get away with anything, and you need to adjust to that as well.
Yep, but that's about all I got, man.
Yeah,
that's about all I got. I like their defense more than I wanted to.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, and they've played better at home, 5-1 at home,
and that's gonna be a fun atmosphere. Night game in Lubbock.
Let's go.
Yay.
I'm here for it.